everyone for being here with us on a rather chilly, no, it's just cold today. It's beyond chilly today. Cold December afternoon. I want to acknowledge two board members that we have quorum here. We're just currently missing Dr. Lewis and Dr. Hildreth, who I'm sure will join us shortly. And also want to acknowledge, and I know about you, but I almost joined somebody else's meeting in there. So thank you to the MNCO staff who turned us the right way. I appreciate that. This afternoon, we will come together for what you see on the screen here, our meeting minutes, and we will also move with all deliberate purpose, speed, and awareness that there is food on the other side of this agenda, right? And so we felt that it was appropriate that after the great collaboration, engagement, both with the COB, the MNCO, but most importantly with the community, that in the spirit of the holidays, we just come together and fellowship after the space here. And so we welcome the community to do that with us after this meeting here. In order, we have the approval of the minutes, and I believe that all of us should have received the minutes ahead of time. Thank you to Ms. Fitcher and her, Director Fitcher and her staff. Has everyone had an opportunity to read the minutes, and if so, is there a motion?
I move that you want to do them separately.
Yes,
okay.
And I'm first going with the approval of last board meeting's meeting.
The last board meetings aren't here, are they?
We have September and October. Apologies,
right.
September and October. That's
Yeah,
what I mean.
right. We're still bringing up to date all the previous minutes. So the first one is September 11th, 2019, and I move their approval.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. Seconded by Mr. Campbell-Gooch. Any focused discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Nay. Abstention. The motion carries. Thank you very much. Is there an additional motion on the floor?
Yeah. Then I'd move the approval of the minutes for October 2.
October 2nd, 2019. Does anyone else second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Motion seconded by Mr. Martinez. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries. Thank you very much. I believe that concludes all the minutes that we were sent ahead of time. That will leave for the next board meeting. We will review our November board meeting minutes in addition to our executive committee meeting minutes as well. And then also, well, understanding the holidays, but a bit of time, perhaps we'll also have this December meeting as well, and we'll be up to date at that point in time.
Yes.
Thank you to our secretary as well as to Director Fitcher, and I know Ms. Person, you've been instrumental in that work too. Thank you very much on that. Next, we'll move to the chair remarks. There's only a few things I want to mention, but first and foremost, most importantly, I'd like to read a note that the board received today. Never are we more aware of how much family and friends mean than at the time of bereavement. Your thoughtfulness did so much to console our hearts. We thank you so much for your kindness, prayers, and expressions of love. May God bless you as you have blessed us. Lovingly, the family of Louise Sarah Ross and Brenda Ross. Thank you very much, Member Ross. Thank you. And I will ensure everyone on the board has an opportunity to read it as well. We welcome you back as well, Ms. Ross. I know you never stopped working for us or with us, but we certainly continue to be with you in spirit as well as you and your family bereave the loss of your mom. Their chair remarks are rather brief today. I just want to acknowledge that the executive committee did meet and have I think about an hour and a half meeting on two main subjects. So we discussed the progress of the MOU that has been spearheaded by, you got the best time in the world, Dr. Hildreth. Dr. Hildreth, welcome, Dr. Hildreth. And then we also spoke about the body-worn camera policy. And we have, for our consideration here today, and also electronically, files that we've all had an opportunity to review. And we'll talk a bit more in detail about that. I feel it's important to note a few points in between this space and time. If you had the opportunity to read through the press release that we all received as a board that's been posted on the website, you should be aware that as a MNCO, our staff, led by Director Fitcher, has been as acutely aware as possible of what has been taking place, the policy recommendations, the plans out of the mayor's office. I connected with Director Fitchard and made it very clear that we were disappointed that the staff was not engaged early and often in the mayor's decision to implement the 40-plus body-worn cameras. We talked about ways to improve communication and engagement, and Director Fitchard met with John Button of the mayor's office to express not just that, but many other points, because we recognize that the only way this can and will be successful is if the community is at the very center of this work, and that is to take nothing away from the important energy, efforts, and thoughtful deliberation of the mayor and his office. But we know that the Community Oversight Board exists not to be reactive, but to be thoughtful and proactive in our approach too. And I felt as your chair that you would give me a little bit of space to speak on our behalf in that regard. And that's really truly where it ended as far as my voice and space. I want to thank our staff for the press releases, the engagement, all of the work that certainly we would expect of this space, but them going above and beyond, because it isn't just Director Fitchard, it's not just Dr. Valliere that you'll hear from, but everyone has been engaged here. Liz and others, our investigators, they have all been fully engaged, and of course our council as well, so thank you. I also want to acknowledge that I received a message from Mr. Button on Friday, I believe it was Friday of last week, and he asked if I had an opportunity to meet with him for lunch this week. We did meet for lunch, and I asked him, purpose of the meeting. He wanted to share again about the body-worn cameras. The meeting was really lunch, was rather brief, less than an hour long, but it was helpful. One, to reiterate the importance of Director Fitchard's office being engaged. I made it very clear, too, that we are separate entities and that as a board, our purpose and function won't be every day like Director Fitchard and her office, right? But the only way that we can be fully informed here is that office is informed so that they can communicate back to us, right? I also gave space to just listen, right? So because I wanted to figure out what I should say here and also can be helpful in engaging and leading us. Two things I think are important to share here, and if I'm not wrong here, Director Fitchard, he's joining us. Mr. Button, am I wrong about that?
Yes, he's coming.
He's coming, right? And so I extended an invitation to him. He did mention the great progress happening in the task force, but I said to them that more than anything, the people need to hear from Mayor Cooper and or his administration directly, because there are a lot of questions around why it seems that we're reinventing the wheel, why are we spinning back into time of things that can simply be moved forward, and maybe there's things we don't know, right? But we don't want to speculate, and so I extended the floor to Mr. Button as well, and he said he was happy to join us in that space. Director Fitchard, is there anything else I'm forgetting as far as updates, because I'm going off my short list here? She and I, we've met once, I believe, and had a few phone calls, but more than anything, and Director Fitchard will tell you, I've said, you're our ED, we trust you, move and go. And I even put that in black and white in email again, and quite frankly, have been nothing but overwhelmingly pleased with the way the office is being led. And so that is the short part of my chair remarks here. I'll pause if there are any questions or comments here before we move into the meat of our agenda. If not, thank you very much. We'll move to the Executive Director report. Director Fitchard, by the way, I didn't love the hair. Didn't know who you were, but love.
I like to change it up a little bit.
I swear I walked in here, I leaned down, I said, Mr. Martinez, who is joining us today? And then he said, that is Director Fitchard. Director Fitchard, welcome.
Thank you. Thank
welcome.
you. I just want to say good afternoon, and I know that we have a lot to cover today, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on the ED report. But after assuming the role of the ED a few weeks ago, I've spent some time assessing the needs of the position, and then I determined that there were several areas that needed immediate attention. So if you put aside the MOU, there were some areas that were some internal operations and organizational operations that I think that need attention. And then I will have to do some consistent monitoring and updates on those things. But the most significant deficits I found were to be external workings of the agency and how the ED connected to the community. And so I have listed those priorities in my director's report. And I think that these are the things, if you want to talk about my first 90 days, this is what my first 90 days would look like. And I just want to talk a little bit about those. I thought the first thing that was most important was to do some extensive community outreach and education. And so my goal is to complete at least 1 to 2 community meetings per week for the first 90 days, and do some community listening sessions with my community liaison. I have started that already. I mean, I just started this position, but I have 2 meetings scheduled already. I've completed 1, and I have 1 tomorrow. The second thing was to do some community justice stakeholder outreach. My goal is to complete 2 of those a month, just a dialogue. That would be the Public Defender's Office, the Police Department, that would be the ACLU, whoever's a CJ stakeholder, to reach out to them and try to get that done in at least 2 a month. And then I thought having a ride-along, for me, ride-along with MPD was important so that I get to know the officers, they get to know me, and I put down 1 to 2 per month at multiple precincts and shifts. My goal is to do every precinct and to try to, I may not do the midnight shift, but I'll try, but at least do the morning and the A and B detail. I thought that was important to see because I only did 1 so far, and that was through the CPA, and I thought it would be important for me to engage law enforcement that way. We're going to have an open house. Our goal is to have that on MLK holiday, which is January the 20th. That's what we have. We might have to tweak that date, but that would be the date that I would like to have our open house. And the community will be invited. Everyone will be invited. And then we want to complete, I got with my team, we wanted to make certain that we completed our annual report by February 1, which is in our rules, so that we are going to be working towards that. As well as training. We have found some trainings. The investigators have found some online trainings that deal with de-escalation. There's some other trainings out there that we want to be a part of. That's a webinar, and we also, a webinar, and also try to do some in-person trainings. And then I want to complete a strategic 2-year plan. I think that we have one that was submitted. But this particular strategic 2-year plan that I want to finish up will have metrics in it, and it will include a agency vision from me. And if you go over to my ED report and you look at operations, I just wanted to touch quickly on some important topics in this. The first one is November the 20th. I had a department head meeting. I met with the department heads, and that was spearheaded by Kristen Wilson. She's the Chief of Operations and Performance for Mayor Cooper's office. I was invited to the next one, which is tomorrow. It's on 12/19. I have my monthly district attorneys meeting. That's set for 12/20. Let's see here. Oh, the assistant director search. I received 8 applications from HR. I had dialogue with them today, and I think that we're going to push that back into the first part of the year. We just don't really have time to dedicate to that and to get the whole, everything spearheaded and moving forward. So I thought it would be best that we put that off and pause that until after the holidays. And I was also invited on January the 27th, 2020, to the Use of Force Board hearing. And so I will be at that Use of Force. Metro Police Department invited me to that Use of Force hearing. I also wanted to talk about the meeting minutes. I think it's important that we get those done in a timely fashion. And so I'm going to implement some due dates on the minutes. The first, for our regular meetings, a 5-day turnaround is important for me to have those. And then for corrections, it will be 3 days. And so I've talked to Ms. Person about that. And so we're going to try to work towards getting those minutes on time and submit it to you in a timely fashion. Under community outreach engagement, I reached out, I sent an introduction email to Chief Anderson and President Smallwood of the FOP. I did that on December the 9th, and today I heard from President Smallwood congratulating me on this new appointment. And that's all I have. I mean, you guys have it. If you have any questions, those are the things that I wanted to highlight.
Thank you, Sheriff. Fisher. Any questions? Thank you. Member Ross?
Yes, I have a concern in reference to open house on Martin Luther King holiday.
Yes,
Due
ma'am.
to the numerous activities going on in the city.
Okay?
So I have a concern about that.
Okay?
One other thing is community outreach.
Yes.
You mentioned going to the community centers. Has there been a discussion with Parks and Recreation or their board in terms of using their facilities?
So we're going to talk about that. Todd is going to talk about that under when we get to locations and how we're going to
Okay.
have our meetings. That particular community outreach, what our community liaison was speaking of, is going out to the community and setting up a complaint, an operation of where people could come in and make their complaints at the community centers.
Right, but it needs to be a discussion held with Parks and Recreation.
Yes,
prior to-
ma'am.
yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions? Points of
Yes,
clarification? Mr. Holloway?
on the open house on Martin Luther King days, a lot of events does go on, but it still can be worked out as you do it in a timely fashion, like towards the evening time, like 2 or 3 o'clock, somewhere after that. Because a lot of the events goes on around about 11 or 12, so it's no more than about an hour or 2. And then shortly after that, then you have a free day after that. So if we can do it sort of after about 2, something like that, that'd be fine.
Okay. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Vanderbilt has activities. in
Mr.
there.
Sweeney?
Yes, just a question regarding the annual report.
Yes, sir.
I don't recall, is that February 1 date, the date that it's due to the legislature?
No, I believe that's, hold on 1 second. You have it, Todd? I think it's in there. It's under, I thought it was just due to, is it in the rules? Yeah, I think it's in the bylaws. Give us 1 second.
Sure.
It's under advisory boards and regs.
I was thinking it was toward the end of the
It's on
bill.
section 10.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't see a February 1st date on here.
You don't see it? It's in there. Let's see. It doesn't look like a date is specific in here. Let's see here.
The question Mr. Sweeney raised is the due date for the report that would be due to the state legislature. So the new report.
It's in the statute. Okay,
It's in
sorry.
the statute.
It's at the top of the
It says by February 1 of each year, a community oversight board shall submit a report to the chairs of the judiciary committees of the House of Representatives and share, including but not limited to the following information for the previous calendar year.
Right,
So yes, so we need to get it done before then.
Yeah, so, I mean, will that be presented to the board in draft in our January meeting?
Yes. You can have that done.
Thank you.
Thank
Sorry to
you.
cut off.
No, that's all.
Else? Any other questions, comments here regarding the executive director report? Okay. Thank you very much, Director Fitchett. Next, we'll move on to the MOU negotiation task force. I'd like to give the floor to Dr. Hildreth to lead us through here. We want to, we have materials in front of us, but I believe with her great overview, we'll be able to ask the questions that we need and move forward appropriately. Dr. Hildreth.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to make preliminary remarks and indicate what the process has been, and then ask if you would table this item until John Bunton arrives. We were in negotiation today, and we're fighting the same traffic. And he informed me that he had one other matter to take care of, but he will be coming forward. We have now completed 5 negotiation sessions. The task force composed of the individuals mentioned in the mayor's press release, myself for the board, Deputy Chief Mike Hager for the police department, John Bunton of the mayor's office, and Bob Cooper, head of the Metro Legal Department. One of our opening ground rules is that the contents of the actual negotiation sessions would remain confidential to the team and our direct representative reports. What that means is I have before each of the 5 meetings and after each meeting, with the exception of today, because today is my afterwards, I report to the COB office. I meet with Director Fitchard. We prepare before the scheduled meeting. I then walk to the courthouse. The 4 of us have negotiations. I leave and I walk directly back to the COB office and meet with Director Fitchard, and we go over line by line everything that was discussed. I take her feedback, and then we rinse and repeat. There have been 5 sessions. We have another scheduled for this coming Friday, followed by one that is scheduled for Monday. Beyond that, I would like to stop at this point and defer to Mr. Bunton to say whatever else was been agreed upon as to the statement as to the progress of the negotiations. Thank you.
Absolutely fine to table this. Let me ask just one question here, though. I'm interested to hear from you and your own perspective. What is the tone and tenor of the meeting? Do you feel everyone is coming to the table with a good purpose of achieving successful MOU that is agreed upon by all parties?
Every single session has been absolutely productive.
Okay, that's great to hear. Thank you. Mr. Sweeney,
Yes.
are you turned around?
No.
Okay. All right, that's okay. So we'll table it for now. Let's move on. We'll come back to number 6 here. We'll move to the policy advisory report regarding examining our local law enforcement policies and local immigration enforcement actions. It's a mouthful, but it's important. And I want to thank both Liz and also our vice chair here for their energy and efforts here. So you have the floor. Welcome.
Good afternoon. So before I start, I wanted to explain for the public that this policy advisory report is still technically a draft that I'm putting forward for the board's review. Once the board has approved the report and any requested changes are made, then the report will be released to the public as soon as possible. Oh, and the board, you have a copy of the slides that are going to be presented here since they're kind of awkward to see. All right. So first I wanted to explain this policy advisory report was requested by the COB Vice Chair, Mr. Martinez. The research team was tasked with examining the following and proposing policies for MNPD. Any and all policies MNPD has relating to interaction with federal immigration enforcement officers and federal immigration enforcement actions. Any training MNPD personnel receive regarding federal immigration enforcement, including jurisdiction, types of warrants, identity documents, and civil rights. The number of times ICE agents have requested the assistance of MNPD in any way, the outcome of such requests, and the amount of Metro resources expended on such requests. To develop this report, we reviewed media reports on immigration enforcement in Nashville, academic research on local police and immigration enforcement, the MNPD manual. We also requested information on incident and CAD reports for all instances where MNPD officers responded to a call from ICE, and interviewed community leaders who work with and advocate for immigrant and refugee communities. The report can really be split up into 4 sections. First, we reviewed current policy environment in Nashville and the state of Tennessee. Second, we discuss the history and current state of immigration enforcement in Nashville, including the recent incidents between ICE and MNPD that motivated this report. Third, we discuss concerns raised by community leaders related to the needs of immigrant communities and their interactions with both MNPD and the Davidson County Sheriff's Office. Fourth, we review MNPD policies, procedures, and training related to immigration enforcement and make recommendations for improving the criminal justice system in Nashville. Immigration enforcement has been one of the pressing issues being discussed in the local community and among Nashville's political figures. To give a bit of background, I created this flow chart for the process that can be described as Nashville's deportation pipeline. Although MNPD states that they do not engage in immigration enforcement, they do play a role in deciding who will be issued a citation and who will be arrested and transferred to the sheriff's office for booking. This decision is one that is often left up to individual officer discretion when it comes to misdemeanor crimes. In addition to the place of birth field, the place of birth field on MNPD forms was used under the 287G program. Booking officers at the sheriff's office relied on this place of birth field from MNPD officer arrest reports to determine who to flag for immigration questioning. We also heard current concerns in interviews with the community that officers are using this place of birth field to segue into questions to ask the community about their immigration status. Once someone is on the second level at the sheriff's office, their information and fingerprints are sent to the federal government, which includes ICE. ICE can then use this information to issue detainers to the sheriff's office for the continued custody of an individual who is in jail. Multiple sources have detailed to MNCO some concerning practices that are happening at the sheriff's office. ICE officials are calling to speak with individuals who are being booked into custody. The sheriff's office staff is handing over the phone without warning people that ICE is on the phone and what consequences of answering their questions might be. In addition, we've heard multiple reports that sheriff's office staff is proactively calling ICE themselves when someone in their custody who they think might be removable is about to be released. By calling ICE themselves, the sheriff's office staff gives ICE officials a chance to issue a detainer for their continued custody, and that prevents that person from being released from the sheriff's office. And that's where we are at the last level. ICE officials then make regular trips to the sheriff's office to pick people up who the sheriff's office has agreed to hold for them. Moving on to the topic of ICE calling MNPD for assistance, we requested records from the Department of Emergency Communications and MNPD related to any ICE calls for assistance. Both departments stated that they do not keep track of such instances in their records. As a result, MNCO was only able to request information related to the 3 high-profile incidents that were known to have taken place this year. We found this very concerning, as it means that any information on lesser-known incidents cannot be requested. I want to give a brief overview of the 3 high-profile incidents that we cover in the report. On July 22nd of this year, ICE officers attempted to pull over a man and his 12-year-old son who were in a van. The man pulled into a residential driveway where he and his son would spend more than 4 hours in their vehicle while ICE agents tried to talk them into exiting. During this incident, one of the ICE agents called for assistance from the MNPD. According to the MNPD CAD report, a total of 5 officers responded to the scene, arriving between 7:22 a.m. and 9:49 a.m. On September 5th, in the parking lot of a Food Lion supermarket in Antioch, a federal immigration agent fired shots into a box truck and injured a man that had exercised his right to refuse to show ID without a judicial warrant. An ICE agent called the MNPD to the scene just after 7 a.m. and informed the department that he had fired his weapon while attempting an apprehension. MNPD was not involved in the investigation of this incident except for protecting the scene until the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security could take over and begin their own investigations. On the morning of December 5th, MNPD was called to respond to the scene of an ICE arrest at which ICE agents had pepper sprayed 3 family members of the man they were arresting, including 2 women and a minor. According to the MNPD CAD report, a total of 9 MNPD officers responded to the scene within a few minutes of each other. An ambulance from the Nashville Fire Department was also called to the scene to provide medical assistance to the family members who had been pepper sprayed. Supplemental reports made by the MNPD officers who were at the scene indicate that officers stood between the ICE agents and the crowd of residents that had formed in an effort to de-escalate the situation, and they also helped physically remove a family member from blocking the road in front of an ICE vehicle. So through our research and our interviews with community members, we created a total of 12 policy recommendations for the board to review. Each one has been given an identifying number. In the interest of time, we chose 3 of the policy recommendations to highlight here today. They are numbers 1, 2, and 12. Number 1, the MNPD should make official policies and develop formal training on what types of U.S.-issued and foreign-issued identification will be accepted in order to issue misdemeanor citations rather than take individuals into physical custody. Number 2, the MNPD policy manual should discourage police officers from asking about immigration or citizenship status. If an officer does ask about immigration status, they should be required to document that they asked about immigration or citizenship status and provide a justification for the question. And number 12, the Davidson County Sheriff's Office should inform persons of their rights while they are in booking. Should ICE officials call to speak to a person who is in booking, the Sheriff's Office should inform the person of who is on the phone and what their rights are when interacting with federal immigration enforcement officials. And finally, I wanted to close with some of the comments we got through interviews with the community. In interviews with MNCO, community members and local advocates raised several concerns about law enforcement, immigration enforcement, and other aspects of the criminal justice system in Nashville. This includes low levels of trust towards local law enforcement, traffic enforcement biases, requesting assistance for domestic or mental health-related situations, lack of use of language interpreting services, the improper translation of rights waiver forms, a lack of substantive community outreach, and concerning communication practices between the Davidson County Sheriff's Office staff and ICE officials. Once this report is approved, it will be sent to MNPD, the Sheriff's Office, DEC, and the Mayor's Office for their consideration. And I will now take any questions that the board has regarding the report.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Mr. Martinez?
I just wanted to thank you, Liz, for putting this report together. I think Nashville and the COB are lucky to have research analysts like you and Dr. Revere to come up with information like this for us. I think it's really disconcerting that MNPD has no reporting or documenting processes for interactions with a federal law enforcement agency. That's definitely alarming, especially when police officers are being used as threats to immigrants. They're threatening immigrants into coaxing immigrants into, waiving their rights, right? As you point out in your report, there's a lot of mistrust for MNPD, and I hope that bringing this out today will make the MNPD proactively think about policies that they can put in place so that they can, make amends with the community and improve safety for all of us. And thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Martinez, Mr. Campbell-Gooch, Mr. Sweeney.
I have a conversation about the 287G program and how it informs secure communities. And I know secure communities was ended in 2014, but I know it was restored in 2017. So I just wanted to hear you speak about how that informs our policies.
I didn't include too much about secure communities here. It has been restored. I think the biggest thing is that when people are booked, that information is being shared with the federal government. I think that's kind of the key thing here is even if the Sheriff's Office staff didn't call ICE or ICE didn't call them, that information is being sent automatically to the federal government when people are arrested.
And then the next question that comes to mind. And I couldn't find it in the report. I was looking for it. But it was mentioned in the report how ICE agents announce themselves when they call 911.
Yes.
And how that should make a searchable record. Like there should be the presence of a record.
Yes.
So can you talk about that situation very specifically?
Sure. So since we were able to request information from the Department of Emergency Communications for certain incidents, I did receive the CAD report from DEC and the audio for one of the phone calls. The person calling identifies themselves as ICE, and that is actually on the CAD report, which is a document that you can publicly request. It states that he's a federal immigration officer. So if someone at DEC is inputting that information, we feel that, I mean, as a digital database, that should be searchable. But we were told that it's not. Mm-hmm.
Mr. Sweeney. I've got a couple questions. No, it's worth it. Please do. It's important.
Since this is the first time that we've received any policy recommendation,
Yes.
I just want to talk a little bit about process
Yes.
to get an understanding. But before I do that, I want to echo what Mr. Martinez said, that this is a great document, and very thorough and very helpful to an understanding. So when we receive this draft, this recommendation, whose is this? In the sense, is this yours? Is this the research analysts combined? Is this the MNCO? Is there a internal review process before the draft comes to us? What do we have here, and how do we get it?
Okay, sure. So I spent a lot of this past few months working on this report. Peter also was a great help and wrote some of these sections also. So this is a collaborative effort from the research team. Once we were done working on it, we sent it out to the MNCO staff members for any questions or comments or changes that they might want to make. So this is coming as, I would say, a draft from MNCO staff to the board. And I believe that once, if the board approves it, then it becomes a COB policy recommendation that is then forwarded to other metro agencies.
Okay, so let me ask Director Fitchard for a second. So you receive this draft, and there's a request for comments. Do you kind of convene a team and kind of talk it through? Or if there are no comments that go back to the researchers, then it's final and then it comes to us? I'm just trying to understand not only what the process is with this, but what should a process be, full-blown as we go forward with any policy consideration?
Well, yeah, so that was forwarded to me. I reviewed it. I think I made some recommendations. It was sent to the staff, and we did not all. Liz met with some of the staff members, and they convened. I wasn't a part of that meeting. Yes. And then she made the changes, and I had Todd review it for legal issues, and then I gave it back to her to deal with that, whatever issues that he had, which he didn't have any. And then she put all her, made all the corrections, and then we talked about how we would deliver it to you and what the process was. And that's as far as we got. We didn't go through what the next steps were. Once we gave it to you to determine whether or not the board was going to approve it. And we kind of stopped right there.
Do you think that going forward, it would be useful to have kind of a formal protocol or a formal SOP for how policy gets from request to presentation to the board and then for board consideration?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. With this report, what suggestions do you have to the board as to how the board should go through the process of consideration? Meaning, there's a lot of meat here.
Yes.
Okay? For a short presentation and then a vote tonight, I think, that's not, in my view, the best way to go about it. Is this a matter that it would be beneficial to schedule a public hearing and get other input from anybody who might be affected by this? before the board would then consider it, just to make sure that we're as fully informed as we should be on any policy that we consider before we make a recommendation. Do you think that would be wise or unwise, or why?
I don't think that additional input would be unwise. I think that, interviewing community members, we really wanted as many perspectives on this as possible. If you all feel that we should get more, then I think that's great.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Ms. Ross and Mr. Campbell Gooch.
Okay, I also want to echo that. This is a very good report.
Thank you.
My concern, I was confused because at some point you interviewed 2 people and then you talked about community members. So I was a little confused in terms of who you were interviewing. I also wanted a little bit more information in terms of, you stated on page 11 that the community members expressing a desire for Nashville Police Department to conduct more community outreach and relationship building. What does that look like? I'd like to see a little bit more information on that. And has the community or the individuals that you interviewed spend any time in the community meetings that the community have already with Metro Police Department? Other than, I know in South Nashville they have the El Protecto program, and a lot of people come to those meetings, but what about the rest of Davidson County?
I'll start at the beginning. I didn't include names of who I interviewed because a lot of people did not want to be named in this report. So some of them were advocates, and a couple were more community members that organize the community at like a lower level, I guess you would say, not a huge organization. And when it comes to community engagement, I think that some of the community members I interviewed are not part of the Latinx community. They part of the Kurdish or Muslim community, and they looked at El Protector as a program that was very specific to the Latinx community and thought that their communities would benefit of a similar program focused on their communities. I'm not sure to what extent the people I interviewed were going to El Protector meetings. There was a lot of sentiments echoed there that El Protector focuses a lot on children and connecting with kids, and that there used to be a lot of different workshops and educational programs in the early 2000s that aren't really happening as much anymore.
Thank you.
No problem.
Ms. Ross, Mr. Campbell Gooch.
Where I want to start is I was going to ask a question about if you could speak on the community engagement portion, because it seems like there's a lot of narrative, and I think that's great because sometimes the narrative gets lost in the numbers. But just your opinion, and this question might be for the board chair, so excuse me if I'm misplacing this question. What do you think the next step should be as far as community members that we have in this room that are affected by these policy changes and this policy review? What do you think ideally, what should they be doing after it goes public?
That's a hard question.
I know. I mean, because the policy recommendations are great, but I know that we need community members to buy into the policy recommendations as well. So that's why I'm just curious on.
Sure. I think that we were hesitant to release these recommendations to the public without board approval. I think that we can have a more comprehensive conversation about how we want to engage the community with these recommendations. I didn't want to put them out there and then backtrack on some or change some. So I think that if you all approve these recommendations, we can work together to figure out how we want to engage the community, how they might be able to support us in trying to get these policy recommendations implemented by the MMPD and other agencies.
Dr. Hildreth.
Thank you. I would like to join colleagues in commending your work and the work of the committee coming forward. I would like to maybe continue a little bit from Member Sweeney's questioning about process and throw open to all of us as a potential process to think about the way legislation moves through. So when we think about ordinances moving through city council, there is calendared for first reader, second reader, third reader.
Sure.
I'm almost wondering if there's great power in viewing this presentation to us in a public body where there can be public awareness and understanding. It's marked as draft, but we accept this and receive it on first reader, and then schedule it and calendar it for further work. So I don't know if that's going to another existing committee. We have rules committee, process committee. Do we want to now stand up a new policy review committee that has board members on it so that the publicly noticed policy review meeting can happen and board members may properly think about it more together, and then have it come for that final reading, at which point the board would then vote to accept or reject the policy recommendation and give it its imprimatur. So what this does is this would allow us to have this public discussion without any of us fully endorsing it or moving ahead of full discussion and vetting, but it does give us a way to step through and know where we are in the process. So I guess that is just a recommendation and a wondering out loud. And Madam Chair, I would also note that Mr. Bunton has entered the room.
Thank you, Dr. Hilger. I appreciate the point. I recognize Mr. Sweeney. Are you still turned around? Do you have an additional point? This guy just doesn't know how to flip his name. It's okay. So I appreciate this point. I was thinking the same, and really, I'm thinking about time, too. We would need to have all of the additional discussions completed before the next monthly board meeting, because after that space, we're kind of running up against new members, people who haven't had the opportunity to properly read, and that just simply wouldn't be a fair way to introduce those new members to the board. So looking at the time, I have the calendar in front of me, thinking about, I think it would be January 22nd. Realistically, does that give, any new, and I'm just trying to see how the board feels here, and welcome that of our director and you as well, Liz. Do you think that's enough time to allow, with the holidays here, for at least one, potentially two meetings for the public to have that opportunity? Or, I don't want to put a pie in the sky opportunity here in front of us, too. So, I'll start with you. Do you think that's fair? Yeah, that's okay. If you don't, it's okay.
I think at the very least we could have one other meeting in that space. I know that these meetings are a lot of work to put together, but I think if we give the community notice with enough time before, the holidays really hit, then we could work that out.
Okay. And would that allow, and Dr. Hilger, if you could just make sure I'm clear on your recommendation here, that it's not a motion, it's a recommendation here. We would, as a board, use this is our first read here, and then allow what we have in a full version to then be shared out to community members, so that they can have a full awareness of the draft proposal. Is that what you had in mind, or something different?
So technically, it's been shared with the community because it's out here now.
Right now at this meeting.
I think that the distinction is that when it comes to this meeting, it's not being brought for action by the board because there's not enough time.
Not enough time.
So unlike legislation, I said first, second, third reading, I think that my amended recommendation is that policy have two touches before the full board. A meeting at which it is calendared and introduced in this fine fashion with PowerPoint and sort of drafter's intent and the story and the history behind it. Then a period of time so that all of the involved publics can speak to it, meaning whether it goes into community groups who have questions, concerns, and know that they can come back to meeting number 2 or send in correspondence before we have board meeting number 2. And then at board meeting number 2, it be presented and read again for board action, which would be adoption or not. I think that I'm also going to recommend that these wonderings out loud be referred to our board's rules committee to figure out if they want to write a rule about how policy comes through, sort of on the first reading and a second reading and all of that. I am not suggesting that that needs to happen in the processing of this particular instance, given the unique nature of our calendar with this coming to the end of our first year. So please take most of my recommendation as being that structural strength as we grow and mature generally.
Thank you, Dr. Hildreth. Is there Mr. Sweeney, you're turned around again.
I have turned it around.
This is intentional, okay. Then let me recognize you then before I ask the question, please.
I don't feel the particular need that we have to decide this by the 22nd, since this is just the first touch, and the sense that none of the board members are heavily involved or invested in it yet. I mean, if that's the appropriate time, that's fine, but I don't feel that we should feel pressed by that date.
Okay. Okay, that's fair. Mr. Campbell-Gooch.
I personally would like to get it done by the 22nd, because I feel like the board will be in transition in February, and it might be difficult to, like you said, it might be an unfair situation to new board members.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell-Gooch. Ms. Ross?
The report's listed,
It is.
and you only highlighted the 3 policy recommendations, and the community is not familiar with what's all in here. So I have a concern about pushing it through before January 22nd, out of fairness to the community to know what's all in the report.
Okay. Is there a motion on the floor and a direction or recommendation on how we move forward here? We have, and I'll say thank you as well to you and your colleagues in this as well. But what we have here is a tremendous amount of work. And so whether it's the 22nd or it's beyond that, I'm open to ideas here, but we do need to decide whether, how we're going to move forward here. And let's be okay with it not being something that's 100% comfortable, but this is too important, right? And let's not mince words here. What these policy recommendations and things that are happening right now are impacting people of color. And so without action here in our space, right, that this positive action can't take place. So let's do something. So I appreciate what Dr. Hildreth shared. Mr. Campbell-Gooch, if you have a recommendation, you don't even need to turn it around. I'm here to listen to you. I appreciate the approach here as well, though, that perhaps, if we can get 1 or 2 meetings in place, I think it would be great. I know Ms. Ross makes a great point, salient fact here, that we do need to get the community an opportunity to digest this. The good time is that we all are going to have a lot of TV time coming up, a lot of us, right? And so this is good reading, right, in front of us. So yes, lose that time. So Mr. Campbell-Gooch, and then we'll come back. I don't know if I trust Mr. Sweeney's turn around. Like, Mr. Sweeney.
Then yes, I would make a motion then, and I would move that we send this proposal out to the community organizations that we did, as we did with the rules in the MOU. I don't think that it worked particularly well or got particularly greater impact when we sent to all the individuals as well, but to the 27 organizations or whatever that we sent out to. So I would recommend that we do that, and that a date be set for a public hearing, like the public hearing we had on the rules and on the MOU, to get community feedback. And that then, based upon that there be another committee of the board, a policy committee, that would be principally involved in that meeting and would review what's been done here and take in the information that's presented at that public hearing, and then presented that back to the board for the second substantive meeting where we would then consider the policy. And I leave open the dates as to whatever people think appropriate. I just don't know that all that's doable by the 22nd.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. And that was a motion?
Yes, that's a motion.
Thank you.
Rambling, but a motion.
Does anyone, do we have someone second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Hildreth. Let's have a focused discussion here. I have one question I just want to clarify. The 27 organizations, that is to include also the FOP, is it? And the police department. Okay.
They're on the list.
They're on the list. Okay. I just want to make sure that was clear. Also, in that space, I think we would be standing up in this motion a policy committee I recognize that our Rules Committee has been quite busy this year. We can go about figuring out who appoints that, leads that, but if we can somehow amend this motion too, Mr. Martinez, I would really appreciate if you had the time and, you got the talents, so you have the time to lead this effort. I think you led us in pointing this out. It'd be incredible if you have that time. And so if you're comfortable with that, I'd like to, amend the motion to include that Mr. Martinez would lead our policy committee as well. Any other points, questions, focused discussion here? Mr. Holloway.
This is an important document, and we definitely need the time for the community to digest this.
Yes, sir.
And so we're gonna all be on the same page, so we need the time to do that.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Holloway. Any additional focused discussion, Mr. Campbell?
I was gonna ask for like a overview of the motion. Just like a clear
I
statement.
think our
of the motion.
secretary was in the process, so yeah.
That the draft policy would be sent out to the 27 organizations to which the rules and the draft MOU were sent. That they be sent out with a cover memo that would give a brief description and then would call for a public meeting the same way that we did last times as well. That there'd be a policy committee that would be appointed, that would be chaired by Mr. Martinez, that would have the responsibility for coordinating that meeting with the executive director. And that committee would then further review as it finds appropriate and then come back here to the board with a recommendation on the policy.
Thank you. Any additional questions and comments in the focused discussion? If not, Mr. Chief Turner.
Yeah, my question is there sufficient time to get that done and have it on the agenda for January, 27th?
22nd. I think it's an important question, Chief Turner. In the way I at my calendar here, many of us don't really fully return back after the holidays until the week of the 6th, January 6th. That is a Monday, so that does leave us, we would have 2 full weeks in that space. Mr. Martinez, I don't know what your professional calendar is, but looking at the calendar, I really was looking at perhaps that meeting takes place the latter part of that week of the 6th or somewhere in between the 13th and the 17th so that you have at least a few days before the next general body meeting. If you say that you have the time on the calendar and you can, I know you'll right away work with Director Fitchard, we can post it as soon as tomorrow morning to make the public aware of the time and place. So let me pause there and give you a moment if you...
Sure. That week works for me, and I can work with Liz and Director Fitchard to schedule, to find a place for that, and then make the list of people that we're going to send it to. And I think a week gives us enough time to come back together and compile the recommendations of the community members before the January 22nd meeting.
Okay. So just to be clear, you're saying the meeting would take place the week of January 6th?
Yes.
Right. Okay. So we will just send your capable, all of y'all's capable hands there, and we'll wait for that answer. Chief Turner, does that answer your question? Are you comfortable with that? Any additional questions on that? Thank you. With that, is there any other focused discussion? Now we'll take a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Any additional points or questions on this particular issue here before we move at all? Anything else? Okay. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. And we'll go back here to our agenda and welcome Mr. Button from the Mayor's office to join us here up front. Thank you very much. So we're going back to agenda items number 6. Mr. Button, we welcome you. I understand you were fighting Nashville traffic. We welcome y'all to fix that for us, too. And we are, just for your awareness, Dr. Hildreth gave us an overview of nothing more than the kind of process and procedure of the meetings that have taken place, and wanted to be very much a very 40,000 feet up overview so that you could offer us more of a detailed pronouncement. And I will yield to you too, Dr. Hildreth, if you want to speak.
Well, I'm not sure what my altitude will be in these remarks, but I appreciate the chance to provide the board with an update on the discussions between the COB as represented by Dr. Hildreth and by Metro Police as represented by Deputy Chief Hager. Dr. Hildreth and Chief Hager have now met 5 times in discussions facilitated by Metro Legal Director Bob Cooper and by myself. The process has been a very positive one. Substantial progress has been made in developing a mutually supportive working relationship between the board and the department. The mayor and I believe all of the people involved in these discussions are mindful of the importance of this work and of the importance of working out a memorandum of understanding of the various needs and concerns across our community, and of course, including the police officers who protect and serve us. The discussions, I would say, have made significant progress. And all of the parties involved in this talks, I think it would be safe to say, are optimistic that this progress will continue. We are very grateful for the work and the contributions made by Dr. Hildreth and by Chief Hager. And the mayor looks forward to the successful completion of a memorandum of understanding that will serve the interests of both departments and of the broader community. I think I'll just leave it there at this point, but we could not be more pleased at how these talks have gone. And I thank you for the invitation and the chance to provide an update on that process.
Thank you, Mr. Button. To the board, any questions, comments here? Mr. Campbell-Gooch?
Is there a sense of, from the mayor's office, a deadline, or when we should be expecting, just when should we be expecting that the MOU process be solved?
In his original, comments, the mayor expressed a hope that we would have an MOU or an update by the end of the calendar year. These talks have their own cadence, and they're going very well, and we want to sort of respect that natural progress, but we think things are moving along in an expeditious fashion.
Mr. Holloway?
Now, explain to me what are you saying? Are you saying that
Nothing.
will this be done by the end of December, this calendar month, or will we need to continue to January, the first of the year?
I think that things are moving forward very quickly. My major goal here is not to step into a process that is working well for both the COB and the department. I'm looking forward to what I hope will be good news in the near future. I'd like to say no more about that because my role here is to host and facilitate. I want to respect the pace of the discussion and the primary role being played by Dr. Hildreth and Chief Hager. Understand everyone's looking for answers, and I think we'll have them soon. The primary message is we've made great progress. Things are moving quickly, and I think we all have reasons to be very optimistic about the relationships that are developing and the progress that's been made, and I'm going to leave it there.
I'd like to be the first one to say from this committee that we'd like to thank the mayor for allowing us the opportunity to work together.
Thank you very much. He's very pleased at how things are proceeding.
Mr. Campbell-Gooch?
Mr. Holloway kind of stole my thunder. That's what I was going to do. I was going to say I appreciate the acknowledgement of the urgency that we need to get this done by.
Thank you, Mr. Button. I just, one thing, I know we have you here speaking on this, but I should share with you also my chair remarks. I made the board aware of, that we met for lunch, and I told them that one of the conversation points were pretty much twofold. one being principally the MOU and the progress that's happening there, and then following up on the mayor's recent announcement around the body-worn cameras. And I shared with you during the lunch, I said, Mr. Button, we welcome and then actually implore you to share with the community here, with the board, what you might feel is best for, and maybe what we don't know around the decisions that have been made, how you reach said decisions. And the number 44 is resonating all of our heads, right, as we think about it, 1,000+ person police force. And so I would be remiss if I didn't extend space and time for you to talk about that.
I appreciate the chance to speak to that, and I have been reaching out to have conversations with stakeholders across the city to explain the roadmap. I would welcome the chance to come and speak to the COB and the community about this at some future date. I'd like to prepare for that and schedule that for a future appearance, but happy to share our thought process with you and with this board and the broader community, and in fact have been looking for opportunities to do that this past couple of weeks.
I just have a concern, and as an individual citizen, about the selection of who will wear the body cams. I think it should be more of a random. And personally, I feel that we have good police officers, but recently I was attacked by Mr. Smallwood with the FOP, and I feel the bogus complaint that he filed against me would not have been filed if the officers had body cams. Thank you.
Mr. Holloway.
It depends on where it is on the high priority list. And for as a citizen in Davidson County, we would like to think that the body camera is very much on the high priority list as compared to the development that's going on in this city. We are very concerned on some incidents that's happened in the past, and maybe the body camera can correct some of these incidents.
I appreciate your concerns. We share the desire to move forward with this as quickly as possible. I look forward to a chance to talk with you about the policy and planning challenges that we have had to address in developing our roadmap, also updating you on the infrastructure IT build-out that's occurring, and finally speaking to the issue of why we are moving ahead with the plan to get these cameras out and beta and test them. It's a detailed subject. I'm happy to come back and speak to you on that in the future. I appreciate the chance to give you an update on this now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Button. I'll share with you, Mr. Button, the parts here. We have January 22nd is our next meeting. Mr. Button, you're certainly welcome to join us then. Also, I can't make many promises beyond January with this expiring hat I have on in this board chair role, but I can tell you that you are more than welcome back to join us at our next general body meeting. And also, just a point of clarification, if we could ensure the mayor's office also gets a copy of the draft, the immigration policy as well. I think that's important. We certainly want to continue to work together. And in these spaces, we don't purport to believe we have all the answers here, but we do want to open the line of communication so that we're having continuous dialogue here. It's important that we continue to work together. Before we leave this topic here, Dr. Hildreth, is there anything you think that we need to be aware of or talk about as it relates to the MOU negotiation task force? Just want to make sure you have the last word there.
No, I appreciate Mr. Bunton, but also, more importantly, the mayor. Authorizing and making available a formal statement on the process in a way that respects the sensitive nature of the deliberations, the seriousness with which the negotiating parties are entering into this, and a certain sense of vulnerability, and the way in which the mayor's office stepped up and basically took the weight for speaking to interim updates that betokens a level of respect and support that I'm not sure we have experienced in the past. And I would like to say that I feel it, I believe that I can also speak for Director Fitchard in terms of the way we're feeling supported and respected as we are moving very expeditiously and dynamically through this process. And so I would like to give my personal and professional thanks to Mr. Bunton and to the Mayor's office and to the Police Department, specifically Deputy Chief Hager, for the work. And Director Cooper from the Law Department. I don't want to leave anybody out. But everybody's been important, but I think that I want to be heard very clearly in commending the Mayor's office for firm executive leadership on this matter.
Thank you, Dr. Hildreth. I appreciate it. We'll move on to the body-worn camera policy recommendation. Dr. Valier, we welcome you to the table and to the microphone here.
All right, thank you. So we sent to the board a draft document on body-worn cameras. Last week at the executive committee meeting, I was able to speak with the executive committee about an initial draft, and based on their feedback, expanded that document into a more comprehensive look at both the benefits and costs of body cameras as we know them in Nashville so far. The report that was sent to you was initiated by Director Fitchard based on the quickly changing landscape of body camera and in-car cameras in Nashville since the past board meeting. So this has been evolving over the past couple of weeks, and hopefully this will give a platform for the board to begin or to participate in the conversation in a concrete way. Based on the last conversation around the immigration report, we can further the conversation of the process for getting this document through that policy committee and into some concrete policy recommendations. So just as a general overview of the report, on December 10th, the mayor released a new plan in a press release in order to implement body cameras in Nashville. The plan is for 24 cameras, or roughly 24, to be implemented in March of 2020 and an additional 20 in May. That plan is due to the IT build-out that's required for wireless uploading, according to the press release, so that is the current plan going forward of releasing 44 cameras in 2020, and then reevaluating. The cost of body cameras have been a very large component of the conversation. The contract that was signed with WatchGuard, the body camera and in-car camera supplier, in August was estimated to be a $19 million contract over the next 5 years, which is a substantial investment for the city. Also, the police department has invested about $5 million in IT, server infrastructure, the ability to upload information to that server from each of the precincts. There's been Ethernet updates at all of the precincts, and there's been a pretty substantial investment in IT. The DA recently released a consultant's report that estimated the potential costs on the court system, so for the prosecutor's office, the DA's office, the public defenders, and the criminal courts. And the district attorney, for the district attorney's office, the consultants estimated that it would require $29 million per year in additional staff costs, as well as technology investments. Another report from the Tennessean, General Funk, said that could be as low as $14.5 million and only 107 additional staff positions. The public defender's costs in that same report were estimated around $4 million, and the criminal court costs were estimated to be about $2.4 million in that report. Importantly, I think it's that report made several assumptions about how costs would be calculated that I detail in the document I sent you that may not be warranted based on other cities. So the idea that body cameras would be a total net increase in labor time without any reductions in case preparation. So if you think about preparing a case, it might be an additional hour or two of watching camera footage, but some of the interviews that you might have had to do or some of the legwork that might have been necessary would actually be reduced as well. So there's both additional times that are required to view body camera footage and in-car camera footage, as well as time savings that are not accounted for. Additionally, the consultants report interviewed 6 district attorneys' offices, but never actually estimated any of those six district attorneys' offices' actual costs, right? So they interviewed the people at those departments about how it's impacted their workload without actually finding out whether their costs were increased in those offices. As far as the benefits of body cameras, I felt one thing that was missing from the conversation in the city around body cameras is why we're getting them in the first place, right? So the community members have been demanding body cameras for years. Mayor Barry did not, out of the blue, say in November 2016 that body cameras were happening. That came from concerted organizing efforts, primarily led by community groups, activists, and community members demanding that there be body cameras put in place. And the reasons that those were being demanded was because we know that body cameras decrease the number of civilian complaints against police departments. We have great evidence from randomized control trials that many police departments have done that complaints decrease when body cameras go into place. We know that body cameras help investigate complaints. So in Nashville in 2018, there were 95 courtesy complaints against police officers. 56% of those were not able to have a finding. They were not sustained, which means that there was not sufficient evidence to either refute or sustain the allegation. So those were not able to have a finding, either a sustained or an exonerated finding, because there wasn't enough evidence. With body cameras, we would have evidence in order to make a finding of those complaints. And that's important for this body when you all are making decisions about sustaining complaints. Other oversight boards have found that their ability to make recommendations on complaints goes up when body camera footage exists. But we also know that body cameras protect police officers from exaggerated complaints. They're good for both community members and for officers. They're good for prosecutions tend to rely on body camera footage. It tends to increase the amount of plea arrangements that the prosecutors are able to receive. So there are a number of benefits, and this is an active area of research around the impact of body cameras. So given that we know that there are these benefits there, we know that there's these costs, I developed in this report several recommendations that would, I believe, in consultation with others in MNCO and Director Fitchard, would be helpful for implementation. One of those is, as Ms. Ross mentioned, the process of randomization. I'm a scientist. I believe in randomization when we're trying to find out if something works. If we're taking a process of implementing cameras over time where we aren't investing 100% in every officer having them up front, there are strategic ways to implement those so we can have the best available evidence in order to understand the impact of body cameras on complaints, on complaint resolution, on use of force, on other outcomes that we know are important. There's major gaps in the research literature right now on the impact of body cameras on use of force and also in the impact on racial disparities. That's an area that hasn't been researched, and those are areas that, as a researcher, I'm very invested in understanding better. I believe that this board can, if they make that recommendation, the city of Nashville could be part of those conversations around the impact of body cameras. Additionally, I also want to point out that randomization is an important equity issue. If body cameras are rolled out in specific areas that are often termed high crime, we know that correlates onto neighborhoods that are predominantly communities of color. And since body camera footage is being used to prosecute crimes, when people arrive in court, their cases would have a different standard of evidence than a neighborhood that that didn't have body cameras implemented. So I believe that randomization is an important component of making sure that we have an equitable rollout, because we do know that body cameras and the body camera footage is used extensively to prosecute people when they go to court. So that is an important consideration as we're thinking about implementation. We also are recommending in the policy advisory report that all policies from the police department are made public, and that there's community hearings in order to solicit feedback on the proposed policies, and also to have an accounting of the money that's already been spent on IT infrastructure, so the public has a better understanding of the money that's already been spent, how it's been spent, and how our investment as a city is being put to use. To the mayor's office, we have recommendations on convening a working group, including MNCO staff of agencies that can work together in order to make this the most productive implementation possible, so that all the agencies are working together, that the resources are being deployed in an efficient way, so there isn't waste and there isn't duplication where there doesn't need to be any. We also recommend that community leaders are involved in all policy development around body cameras and in-car cameras, and that there's public comment. And we would also like to see the number of cameras increased from the 44 originally to a number that might more accurately get a random sample of incidents that would create a better estimation of the cost that the DA might face, as well as other costs or benefits of the cameras. And I appreciate Mr. Bunton being willing to come back and speak more specifically about the process of developing that implementation plan. And we appreciate the mayor's leadership on this, and we want to recommend that there is strong leadership for not just an implementation plan, but an evaluation plan. That our strategic planning for body cameras has to be both how we get them out and how we find out how well they work.
I want to acknowledge Mr. Holloway.
First of all, we got to look at, does human lives matter? Sure it does. Do we put a price on it? Yes, we do. And you got to look at, if we had the camera, how much money that we could save, if we didn't have the prosecution, the attorney fees, going through the court system. It pays for itself. So we might as well get ready for the future. We need to buy the cameras.
Thank you, Mr. Holloway. Mr. Campbell.
Has there been any research on the types of body-worn cameras? I know there's certain ones that activate at certain times, and I also know that there's ones where users can turn them on and off, and that has caused some type of issues and problems. But I really haven't seen anything about the type of cameras that we're purchasing. I know you made mention of the software in the contract. So I was just wondering if you could speak more to the type of body cams.
So we are purchasing a camera called the WatchGuard Vista Wi-Fi. And the WatchGuard camera has a single button that turns it on and starts recording. And officers are able to discontinue recording in certain situations. And I think this is really where policy comes into place, right? So So body cameras overall, regardless, there's probably about a dozen companies right now that produce body cameras. 3 different companies were evaluated, and if you're interested in the entire evaluation narratives, those are actually in the contract, and you can look up the contract number and read the evaluation of each company. They generally all have very similar features. So that's all of them are going to have the ability to turn them on and off. I think where some of the concerns happen is where does the policy allow them to be turned off when they should be on? And I think this is an important piece of making sure that our policy, when when body cameras are in the community, we have the strongest policy possible in order to make sure that they are recording what they should be recording, and that they're being reviewed by supervisors, and that there's requirements on supervisors in order to make sure that they were being used properly, and that if there are violations, that there is a policy that the process is written into policy of what happens when they aren't used appropriately. There have been cities where there is not strong policy about when cameras can be turned off, and when cities don't have strong policies, they don't achieve the outcomes that were hoped for. So whether it's reducing use of force, when officers are able to turn off the cameras, several experimental studies have found that use of force doesn't change or actually increases in the experimental group with cameras. So I think having a strong policy, and we do, and Director Fitchard and I have discussed, we will be, this isn't the only piece we're going to be doing on body cameras. We do plan to continue working on the policies, making policy recommendations specifically on the body camera usage policy.
Yeah. Then I have one more, and it's about the fact that's in the report that says the mayor's plan would not deploy body-worn cameras to more than 44 officers until 2021, just 3% of the police force.
So
Can you speak to that?
So quick? Through 2020, it would be to 44 officers by May. The plan that was released has 3 to 6 months of testing with those 44 cameras in the field, and then a evaluation period of those cameras. So by adding those numbers together, that would not lead to body cameras being rolled out past those 44 until 2021. It's possible, if the evaluation period after those 3 to 6 months was very, very quick, that it might be able to go out to several more at the very end of 2020. But the way that the plan is written, it looks like it would not go past those 44 officers until 2021.
And do you know what policies will be used with those 44 cameras? Like, do we have anything that would be used as measurements?
So there's been a draft policy that we were given that the police department has issued. I'm not sure of the status of whether that's publicly available yet, but we will be working on developing some specific policy recommendations based on that.
Thank you. Chief Turner?
Yeah. Have you had the opportunity to communicate with other police departments regarding, departments who are currently using body cams and what their policies consist of?
I've read more policies of body cameras in the past month than I probably remember. I have not communicated directly with other agencies about their body camera policies, but I have been reading many body camera policies. There's a database of policies available online with more than 100 departments that rates all of the policies, and so I have been diligently looking through a variety of policies.
One suggestion, you might want to reach out, and I know you may have already done this, to the IACP, Also, PERF, Police Executive Research Forum, and CALEA. So, and I know one of the main concerns with Metro is that whatever policies they adopt, that they're in compliance with CALEA. So you might want to just reach out to them. Just a suggestion.
Mr. Sweeney.
Yes. Is the proposed policy complete? Is there anything else? I know when we had the executive committee meeting, we're talking about researching some other issues, some of which you addressed here today on cost and all like that. Do you now consider this to be complete?
I think that's a question for the board.
I mean, from your view, from your perspective.
This piece is a completed piece. Okay. The additional pieces for future reports, like the specific policy evaluation, I think would be a separate report.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sweeney. Any additional questions, comments here? If not, is there a motion to accept the proposed policy here? Mr. Campbell-Gooch.
I'd like the motion to accept the proposed policy.
Thank you. There's been a motion by Mr. Campbell-Gooch. One second. Any other member second?
Second.
It's okay if you don't. I'm not pushing this. Just want to know. Mr. Martinez seconds. Focused discussion. Mr. Sweeney.
Yes. Contrary to the discussion that we had regarding the previous policy, in light of the extent of public discussion that has already taken place regarding body cameras, and considering the fact of the mayor's most recent rollout plan, does it make sense here to consider the proposal as final, that we would then, on behalf of the board, make public? Or is it better to use our set process that we decided with the first policy and just do that with all policies irrespective?
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. Any other questions, focused discussion here? Mr. Campbell-Gooch?
In light of what Mrs. Sweeney just presented, I do want to respond. The issue has been is that the body cams were agreed to over 850 days. So I think it's going to be, just like previously, I think it's going to be difficult to delay this any further. And the recommendations on here feel really simple. Public comment, create policies, things of that nature. So I feel as though to hit the brakes on this now, when this feels complete, it's going to be a difficult move for me.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell-Gooch. Mr. Martinez?
I think the policy committee could, going forward, also solicit public input after the board has approved it. So maybe it could just be a working document. We could always come back and, if there are significant recommendations from the public, amend the report to include that.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Any additional focused discussion here? Comments, Chief Turner, are you still turning around, or are you okay? Wasn't intentional.
I just want to let me make sure that I'm understanding what we're voting on. Are we voting on the recommendations for Mayor Cooper?
Yes,
that are listed in the report?
The policy recommendation that was sent ahead of for us. Yes, so
the whole document.
Mr. Sweeney?
I think we're just, as I understood it, we're just voting to accept the policy, not to issue anything or make it ours yet.
Yeah. Just to accept it at this point. Yes, sir. Any other questions on that? Raise a good one. Not, we'll take let's take a voice vote here. Yay, nay, abstain. Ms. Marsh? Okay, thank you. Chief Turner? Okay, thank you. Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Dr. Hildreth?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell Gooch?
Yes.
Mr. Martinez?
Yes.
Ms. Ross?
Yes.
Mr. Holloway?
Yes.
Yes. And as your chair, I vote yes as well. The motion carries. It's count of, let's see here, 8-1. Here, thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Valier. We appreciate you and your incredible work, too. It's been quite important. Thank you. Mr. Sweeney. Yes.
So we have not made any decision as to whether to announce this as our policy. All we have done is accepted it like the previous presentation.
We've accepted it. Now, at this point, there can certainly be a motion to that regard, but it's my understanding that was the motion that we just carried. Yes. Does anyone want to happy to entertain such a motion? There is one at this point, because as the recommendation was made during the point focused discussion here is that perhaps we would add this to the topic of discussion for the second week of January, full week of January meeting there. Mr. Martinez, I welcome your thoughts on that too, as our lead on that.
I don't know if it's, yeah, I mean, because we would be requesting input from the same organizations that were requesting input for the other report.
Yep.
I mean, it is a few weeks away, so there's time there, but I don't know if there's a lot of substantive input, it might take us a lot more time to incorporate it into a final report to the board.
I think it's an important point that if you chose to go that route, I would only say that I would appreciate the order of topic was the first issue, either what we deem to be first here, right, which was the policy around immigration and the policies there, and then after that, the body-worn cameras there. But that's just my opinion here. Dr. Hildreth.
Thank you. Might the policy committee entertain having a second co-chair who would focus on the body-worn camera issue so that both could be calendared, both could be sent to the programs, and the response coming back can be primarily focused by the assigned co-chairs. So basically what we would be doing was be making use of one calendar, one process, but having two parallel groups to clearly divide the labor and keep clear the issues.
One focus on the immigration enforcement actions, and the second on the body-worn camera.
Correct.
So we have two co-chairs, right?
Co-chair, so that will require a second, either appointment or volunteer.
Volunteer. Thank you, Dr. Hildreth. Mr. Campbell Gooch,
I would like to volunteer to fill that role
for the
body-worn
camera policy.
to keep them running parallel.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Campbell Gooch. Chief Turner, will you turn around here? Did you have a comment?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's totally fine. I just wanted to acknowledge there. Thank you, Mr. Campbell Gooch, for volunteering. I think that would be an incredible, incredible action, movement, and progress that we could have in that space. So thanks to both of you gentlemen. And all I ask is, again, if you could just quickly coordinate with Director Fitcher, because while there's two of you, there's certainly one of our staff, right? And so we're asking them, we're taxing them with coming together quickly there too. And if Director Fitcher, if you could just let me know if this turns out to be something that is as feasible as it looks like it can be here on the calendar, or unfeasible, just let me know. I'm happy to step in and be helpful. Thanks to everyone here. Is there anything else we'd like to discuss here, Mr. Sweeney?
Just for clarification of the process. So we're talking about having two separate public meetings, each focused on the individual policies, and to do them on that same schedule of the week of January 6th?
Yep, so that is the plan, that both of these now, truly, Mr. Martinez, and I can appreciate wanting to do it that first full week of January so that you have another week to review any recommendations and have it ready for the board on the 22nd. Mr. Campbell Gooch, if you do you have that same mindset here? I don't want to speak for you.
I do.
Your mindset?
Yes.
And so perhaps if there's one on the 7th on the Tuesday, and then the second on the Thursday, the 9th, but giving at least some space for those organizations so that they can have a proxy or someone to be represented in that space. But yes, sir, that's what we have in mind. Mr. Sweeney?
Just for issues of practicality. Okay. With the holidays and two very different, very important matters that we're sending out to the same organizations to ask them to weigh in on, is that just too much to expect?
I would leave that to the organizations. These are matters of great urgency in our community, and there may be some overlap of concern where there may be some entities that have deep concerns about folk, but then there are going to be those outside of the Venn diagram where one is more urgent than the other, but both of them need immediacy. And I think that we should create the container and the vessel for that public process to go forward, and it is up to the community and participants to figure out what their sacrifice will be in terms of contribution and response.
Thank you, Dr. Hildren. Mr. Sweeney, I appreciate the points too. I would like to leave it to the organizations to determine whether or not they can participate. Mr. Martinez, Mr. Campbell-Gooch, let me just be clear too. Didn't we allow before that they could submit written responses and concerns and recommendations? So if by chance it's difficult for them to be there in person, that would serve as an alternative way for them to engage as well.
I just need a point of clarification.
Yes,
so you approved both of those here in this meeting, and we're going to invite 27 groups to make public comment. Do you want this to be a public document, or you just want us to send it to those groups?
It's already public.
Yeah, I think it's, well, let me pause. My understanding was that it would be on the public record and permitted. Is that the board's understanding too? I see a lot of nodding heads. Is there anyone who thought differently? I think that's what's important.
Public document marked draft or received on first reader.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the question too. Thank you, Director Fitcher. It's an important one. Anything else on the topic here? If not, thank you very much. Is there a list for us on the public comment? Is there anything, do we have that?
Oh, number 9. Well, yeah.
Skipping right over that important topic, so sorry. Director Fitcher would like to offer us an update, and this will be a very brief update for us and review, because these steps to raise your hand and participate in the process for the vacancies will post it online, is available, but we welcome Director Fitcher here. Thank you also for the list. Thanks.
Mr. Pinkley's going to
So last night at the Metro Council meeting, the posting for the vacancies was announced. It's my understanding that this notice of board vacancies has been put online, and it gives a very specific outline of dates and expectations for the positions. So if the board has members of the community that they think should be involved, then feel free to reach out to those people and have them apply to the position. But it's all laid out very, very well in this document, so I would just have the board go online and read it if they haven't already seen it, and then...
For the public's awareness, though, could you just, I saw the dates here. I saw a date of
yes.
when the application's open, interview. I think those are dates people would want to know.
Right. So December 17, 2019 was the formal announcement of vacancies. January 7th, 2020 will be the deadline for submission of nominee forms to the Metro Clerk. And then January 14th, 2020 will be the deadline for return of completed questionnaire to the Metro Clerk's office. January 21, 2020 will be appearance before the Rules, Confirmations, and Public Elections Committee. And then also on January 21, 2020 will be the election and confirmation by the Metro Council. Yes, sir. December 17th was the formal announcement.
Right.
January 7th was the deadline for submission of nominee forms to the Metro Clerk. January 14th is the deadline for the return of the completed questionnaire to the Metro Clerk's office. January 21, 2020 will be the appearance before the Rules, Confirmations, and Public Elections Committee. And then January 21, 2020 will also be the election and confirmation by the Metro Council.
Okay.
Oh, and I'll also point out that the deadline to return the completed questionnaire on January 14th is by noon.
Thank you very much. Ms. Ross?
The appointment of the mayor's appointee to replace Mr. Cooper. That time frame is coming up at the end of the month, am I correct?
It
have
is
you
coming
had
up at the
any
end of the
word?
month. You may want to direct those questions to Mr. Button while he's here.
I just spoke with Mr. Button, and so.
I'll defer that.
So, Mr. Button has been in contact with the mayor about those nominations and his selection, and there will be an announcement soon in regards to that.
Okay.
Okay.
But there is a date to
They
replace
have
Mr.
until
Cooper.
December the 31st to make that.
December 31st, okay.
That's
I
correct.
want to make sure that was clarified.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Ross. Dr. Hildreth.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify the identity of the two community vacancies that correspond to those dates in the process you just referenced.
Sorry, could you repeat that real quick?
Which community positions become vacant and are subject to the process that you just described? May we repeat that for our community audience?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
It's
Who's rolling off?
Chair Davis is rolling off, and
Chief Turner.
And Chief Turner.
Thank you.
And one of those is economically distressed area,
Yeah, that's what it said.
Yes.
and the other's not.
Yeah, yes. That's my understanding.
The statute.
Yeah.
The statute's changed recently.
the statute.
Doesn't
I mean,
To-
I don't think that the Metro Council's new instructions
Yeah.
reflect the statute, but I'm not a lawyer.
I don't think the statute affects the selection, but that's another matter.
Yeah, that's it.
I don't think what they actually said changes anything, but that's just my own view. But I just wanted to make clear that right now, the two community positions that are open are of two different classes. One is the general class, and one is the economically distressed area class.
That's correct.
Okay.
Mr. Campbell Gooch.
I think I read this document, but I don't really remember if there's any mentions about community members being involved like they were for our interviews. I do remember there were community members in mine who were very much so taking down their opinions on my answers. So I don't know if either one of you could speak to the involvement of them.
Well, it's the same nomination process, so community members can nominate someone. If not, then there's still a particular, I guess it's a rule that you would have to get those signatures.
Right.
Yeah.
But do you know if they'll be involved in the actual interview process?
I didn't see that in here at all.
They were
I don't think that,
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Any additional questions, comments here related to the vacancy and procedures? Not, thank you very much, Mr. Pinkley, as well as no?
I just wanted to clarify that members who are rolling off do qualify to be reappointed by Metro Council. Is that
They
correct?
can be, I think.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. If not anything else, we will move to our public comment. We have two members of the public here signed up. I'd like to welcome Catherine Brooks. I'm sorry, I can't see. Briefs, apologies, I can't see the last name. Hi, Ms. Briefs. Please welcome. You're welcome. And just a reminder, you have 2 minutes. Our vice chair will give you it's 3 minutes, isn't it?
3 minutes.
Sorry, Ms. Briefs, you get your full 3 apologies. And Mr. Martinez will give you a warning at the 1 minute sign. Thank you, you're welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair Davis, and all of you. I very deeply appreciate the time and space and labor that you put into this work and the time that you take to hear all of our thoughts and feelings as community members. The first is I'm so thrilled. The beginning of the meeting was just beautiful. All of the work that Director Fitchard and Brency Thompson have been doing for the community and the work that the communities the relationships are just like so amazing, and all of the work is like so great, and that's so important to me. And it's clear that the community wants to engage, right? It's like standing room only out here at one point today. So this is like beautiful news for everyone. In regards to the Research Policy Advisory Report that was presented at the beginning of the meeting, I had a couple questions that I just hope you all sit with, and that was about when you talk about having public hearings in the 27 organizations that you're going to incorporate, I hope that there is some sort of auditing or some sort of like maybe yearly or however often, like what organizations are included, right? Organizations pop up all over the city, nonprofits, grassroots, all the time, right? Educational organizations and unions, a shift and change with titles. So keeping some sort of like consistency and like auditing of those that list is, I think, is really important. In terms of that specific research proposal, that was really my number one question. For the MOU, I have a number of questions, right? I'm so glad to hear that things are going well. Like, that's beautiful. And I was curious if the MOU draft will be presented to the community before y'all get to like vote on it, because I just don't know. That might be in the rules somewhere that I missed. I just don't know the practices myself. And I think this is deeply important because if I don't know how often it's reviewed, I don't know if it's written. I've looked, I couldn't find a specific like often like sort of reoccurrence in which the MOU is reassessed, right, with MNPD. And this is deeply important as we know that MNPD has a history of not engaging with us. So, or with y'all, excuse me, like I'm on your board or something, but with y'all, but I just, my concern is that if there is a problem with the initial like MOU, it's very common that these things get adjusted. And if it needs to be adjusted and then we need to create another task force and we don't get the response that we need, I just hope that the community has an option to like look at the draft beforehand. In regards to the body cameras, I think one thing, I attended your last meeting, your executive board meeting, and one thing as a community member that I didn't know is the significance of the importance of the implementation, right? And that the implementation is extremely, extremely important to the success of those programs. And I just wanted to like echo that randomization is super important and the urgency of that work. And just to close, I want to sort of like call out this tension around, I appreciate how thoughtful y'all are all the time. I come to these meetings and I listen to you deeply discuss these things and create committees and policies and procedures. And I just hope that we're always keeping in mind that that thoughtfulness is really important, but like these are life and death situations that people are dealing with now. And so I really love the thoughtfulness. I will be at your committee meetings, there's no question. But I also want us to just remember the urgency behind it and that like ICE is terrorizing our communities. People need body cameras to protect themselves from the police, and that these are really important things. And that further, in regards to community participation, not only do I think that that list needs to be adjusted, but that if it becomes too complex, grassroots organizations are more likely to be the ones that aren't participating. Thank you.
Thank you. Kathy Carrillo. Welcome.
Hello.
Hi.
Good afternoon. So I do want to thank you guys again for all of the work that has been going on. I think one of the things that I wanted to kind of clarify and bring up, some things that were alarming to us, I'm part of the mix, which was present at all 3 incidents that happened on the ICE report and the documentation that you guys received. One thing that I did want to make very clear is that the July incident, the ICE agents actually stopped this man on his residence. He was at his home. They were not stopped. They weren't followed. He was on his property. I want you guys to hold that in your minds when thinking about these policies and listening to these communities. The other part was the main concern to our communities is when we see police reports released, and in these police reports it says that no injuries were sustained, yet there was a minor that was taken to Skyline Medical Center for treatment for what had happened during that incident, and it's not written in these reports. The family members have expressed time and time again that they felt betrayed and sad and depressed and angry because the man that was being arrested asked for medical attention and help and was asking the police officers for that attention and help, but nothing came of that. Right now, we know that that family has had to deal with constant information coming from another side, from another phone call in another state, where this man is still having to undergo medical attention due to the injury sustained during that interaction, which is something else that we are super concerned with. One of the things that we also noted that we want to put out there for the community to understand and for you guys to know is that when people have had ride-alongs with MNPD officers, it has been 1 or 2 squad cars for things such as like attempted homicide. However, for these incidents, we have consistently seen 4, 5, all the way up to 9 squad cars at this last incident for these things, and we're concerned about the use of resources that's happening in our city and how that money is being spent and where it's being spent. We also want to bring attention that this is very closely tied to the body cam policies and recommendation. Had we been able to have resources to those things, we would have been able to see how these interactions went down and what are the roles that police officers and MNPD played during these assisted separation of families is how we see it in view. Our people are really concerned, but we're really grateful for the work that's happening here. I just want to also echo Catherine's message of, yes, we are thankful for the thoughtfulness, but we also see the urgency and the need to keep moving forward with policies and procedures. So thank you.
Thank you. This concludes the public comment. I want to thank both Ms. Breeson and also Ms. Carrillo for their comments and also their work and energy here. Thank you. We have now our new business and announcements. Any announcements or new business? Mr. Campbell-Gooch.
First, I would like to commend everybody in this boardroom, community members. Some of you, these are my first time interacting in this space, and I just have so much love at this moment, this being our last board meeting. And I feel like we're in a great place, and I really want to start the next year off in the community where this all started. So I want to make a motion that our February board meeting be at the Rose Park Community Center. And the reason why is because I really want community members to see their votes work and to see the community members on this board who represents all pockets of this community work in a way and work in a fashion that moves this community and these people forward. So I want to make a motion that our February board meeting be held at Rose Park Community Center. And I know I'm jumping the gun. I know I am. I already know I'm jumping it. And that's what I do. So.
Well, I'll wait till you. I do want to have a focused conversation about that.
One moment.
Absolutely.
So we have a motion on the floor. Thank you, Mr. Campbell-Gooch. Does anyone second? Anyone second the motion?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. I was about to as your chair. So let's proceed to focused discussion. I'll extend space for Director Fitchard here.
So I'm going to defer it to, we've been talking about locations and having our meetings out in the community. And so we got some technical information back from the TV and ITS. And so Todd's going to talk about that.
So thanks for the perfect segue into what I was going to
Yes.
say after this. So in the Metro Code, there's section 2.68.010. That section requires us to hold all of our meetings at public buildings that are owned by Metro. So that part is easy to handle. The problem that we run into with having it at various community centers is whether or not those community centers have the required bandwidth to live stream the meetings.
Okay.
So our community liaison, Ms. Thompson's been working with the IT people and with the Metro network to see which community centers are able to host those. The current number that we had is that there was 1, maybe 2 community centers with their current setup that could actually host those meetings. And those numbers come from ITS, so I'm not sure what requirements are needed for that. They also didn't provide which community centers met those requirements. We've sent them an email to get that information back, and as soon as I hear back, I will forward that to the board so that we can hopefully have the meeting at that location if it's one of those that meets the requirements for the Metro network.
Thank you, Mr. Pinkley. Mr. Campbell-Gooch, if you'd like to amend, you had, specific location there, but perhaps it's just a motion that we have it at a public venue.
Yes, that's what I would like. I would like my amended motion to say. I would like to have our motion that our February Community Oversight Board hearing be held at a community center.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Just one moment, Dr. Victor. So thank you, Mr. Campbell-Gooch. Anyone second the amended motion here? Thank you, Mr. Martinez. I would assume that you are then you're obliterating your first motion. Okay. All right. Dr. Hildreth, in the focus discussion.
Thank you. For focus discussion, may I ask Director Fitchard and staff to also investigate a lesser included option to look at those community centers that might be able to support robust audio, so that if we have to sacrifice a video presence to be in community, at least we have some level of electronic recording. I think that for those of us who are now podcast nation, that would be an alternative that would help us expand our options to move into community. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional focused discussion on the topic? On the motion on the floor, rather? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Nay. Abstention. The motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Campbell-Gooch. Any additional new business or announcements? No. Yes, Mr. Campbell-Gooch has a call. I'll tell you, I can act this way. Yeah, yes, please, Director. No, please.
So as we close out the year 2019, I just want to thank each of the board members for their unyielding dedication and sacrifices. The staff of the NCO for their resilience through the many changes and challenges. The community members who continue to show up monthly and encourage us. The mayor's office for its continual support. The Metro Police Department for keeping us safe. And Nashville community as whole for sticking by us. It has been an exciting year, not always pleasant, but not so bad that we wanted to throw in the towel. We are grateful for this inaugural year of learning and look forward to all that is to come in 2020. My hope is that your holiday is filled with lots of peace, joy, and happiness. And thank you for supporting me.
Thank you, Director Fitcher.
You're welcome.
With that, there's no additional new business or announcements. Chief Turner.
I just want to commend the chair that we're finishing on time today.
Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Boxing Day, all of that, because I was just going to point it out that I got y'all out of here. And we're, quite frankly, thank you, Director Fitcher, thank you, Chief Turner. This is the holiday season. This season can be tough for a lot of people, so let's acknowledge that as well as we go into this space. But it truly is a time for us to reflect on this great work that collectively, I appreciate what Ms. Brief said, like I'm on this board. Ma'am, you are. We all are, right? Your voice should be resounding, all of us in this space, your perspective here. We cannot do this, any of this, without all of you here. So please take your holiday season, read over that announcement. There are vacancies coming up, and we hope to see all of you back here in a month. With that, I'll accept a motion to adjourn. Thank you. Second by Dr. Hildreth. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. The motion carries. The meeting is adjourned at 6:02. Thank you, everyone.